Okay.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Emily.
How's it going?
It's good.
Good. We're here to talk about power today
Power.
in the Harry Potter series.
And the last time that we did Harry Potter Month, we did potions as a full class, and we talked about using potions, about the use of power in the Harry Potter world. And we're not doing that as one of our classes this time, but we felt like the conversation was still worth having.
Mm-hmm. If you came to Defense Against the Dark Arts this week, we actually did talk about power a little bit. And that's really what potions is about. It's about how we use power. It's certainly how wizards used power and figured out how to do things.
And it's clear from the first time that the students show up in their potions class and the way that Snape explains to them what that class will be.
Yeah, so in book 1, chapter 8, when they first meet Snape, the potions master, he comes in the room and says, "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making. As there is little foolish wand waving in here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic. I don't expect you'll really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind and snaring the senses. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stopper death, if you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach."
Those dunderheads.
That's Snape.
So, did you say that you think that's better in the movie than in the book?
I do. I think the little speech is more, I don't know, it's more succinct, I think, in the book or the movie, and it feels more about power. Like, he really emphasizes the kind of power that being a good potions maker gets you.
It's just something I would never think to
I
hear
know.
you say. Is that
I know. I
it's
never
better
say
than the movie and the
that.
book.
Especially about Harry Potter.
How much of it has to do with Alan Rickman?
Oh, so much. I love Alan Rickman. That really might have more to do with it than I think.
than the quote itself. The quote itself.
But I do think it captures the power of the thing better, and captures that Snape, when he uses a word like dunderheads, it makes him seem kind of friendly, and he is not friendly.
He's not friendly at all.
No.
And I think that it just goes to show. I mean, I think this is true with all magic, which is why wizards just in general have power, as do all humans.
Sure.
Right? All people have power, but. Right. Maybe wizards on a higher level because they can use magic to do things.
Right.
That nothing in itself is either good or bad.
Yeah.
Most things don't have a moral good or a moral bad.
Right. It is absolute all the time.
It's how it is used. Right. You can say that about a brick. You can say that about money. You can say that about a wand, and you can say that about a potion.
And a person. I mean, I do think we get in trouble when we act like we don't have power when we do, just because we don't hold particular positions of power doesn't mean we are without power.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So
but there is a really big difference in being in a position of power.
Yes, yes, and what that is like. And so we have a major disagreement in our in our friendship based in Harry Potter, and that is how Snape uses power. And is Snape? I don't know.
Is he a redemptive character?
Is he a redemptive character?
Is he one of the bad guys or the good guys? Even though we don't think we can categorize people so easily.
In general, we do not believe in categorizing people as good or bad guys.
Right.
But in the magical world, in fictional worlds, sometimes there's a clearer line drawn than in real life.
And because Snape is who he is and is a part of Voldemort's, all of the Death Eaters think he's a Death Eater. But the Order of the Phoenix thinks he's in the Order of the Phoenix, and so he really does play both sides, and he does so well, and so I think it's harder to tell.
Yes.
That he's a complicated character. Katie, do you think that Snape is a redemptive character?
I do not believe that Snape is a redemptive character, which again kind of goes against what I believe about humans, in that there is no one that is beyond redemption.
Right.
Well, but
he's not beyond redemption.
I don't believe that Snape is beyond redemption. I believe that his behavior doesn't the good that he does not outweigh the bad
he
does.
inflicts.
And part of it is I think for me, I think the biggest thing is you have this, as isn't revealed until the very end, that you've been supposed to protect Harry this whole time, that you have, because of your love for Lily, you have taken it on to make sure that he is okay, and this is a task that is given you from Dumbledore for the whole series. And I just think, as somebody that believes that educators have power, and that their influence is important, and that crushing spirits of students is deplorable.
Yeah, y'all may not know that that's the first rule of ministry for us is don't crush spirits.
And he just crushes spirits just constantly. And just the way he treats his students is abusive. And and so for me, I think that is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yes, Death Eaters think he's a Death Eater, and Order of the Phoenix people think he's in the Order of the Phoenix, and in the end, we're all supposed to believe that he was in the Order of the Phoenix.
Right.
But I don't a double agent is a double agent, and I don't know that I believe that he, everything he ever did as a Death Eater was only in secret for the good of the Order.
Right.
Emily, do you think that Snape is a redemptive character?
I do, but only because to believe that Snape is not a redemptive character, I feel like I would have to believe that a lot of other characters that aren't Death Eaters are also not redemptive. Yeah, so I don't disagree with you that I don't think that everything Snape did as a Death Eater was just all for the good. I'm sure he did things there that were bad, but I just think all of the characters are so complicated, and yes, I do think he's abusive of his students, but I think then we also have to acknowledge the way that Dumbledore was abusive of his students.
Yes.
And was horribly abusive of Harry and constantly put him in harm's way.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to say Dumbledore is an irredeemable character.
Right, because the end of every book, the first number of books,
right,
we end with just the Grandpa Dumbledore moment of
caring for him.
Yes, and this is the one that brings everything together, and so let's talk about Dumbledore's.
So I think both Dumbledore and Snape though have these really complicated pasts.
True. That
causes them to do some of the behavior that they do. They're both dealing with this incredible grief and mourning, which is not an excuse. It's a reason for that behavior. Just because you're mourning doesn't mean you get to be terrible. And Snape in particular is pretty terrible. Mm-hmm. I also think we don't necessarily get a full picture of how dark Snape's past may have been. We don't hear anything about his family.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And the things we do hear, it's oh yeah, you had a really ugly situation.
Yeah. I agree.
And Dumbledore has this really horrible, complicated past with the death of his sister and all of these things, and Grindelwald, and so I think they have a past that brings it that way, brings them to be the way that they are. But Dumbledore in particular, has a very difficult relationship with power. Even he knows he shouldn't have too much of it.
Well, and that's, we talked about this a little bit in our class on Tuesday, that people are always trying to get Dumbledore to become the Minister of Magic, and he's clearly the most powerful wizard of his time, at least not,
sure.
Is Voldemort or Dumbledore more powerful? We don't know. But
I think the Elder Wand answers that question.
Oh, yeah, you might be right about that. But he won't be the Minister of Magic, and he reveals that, I think that's because he doesn't trust his own use of power.
Right.
So we kind of...
So that awareness is helpful.
The awareness is helpful. We kind of skirted, the ways that he puts his student in power, but, let's name them. He gives Harry the invisibility cloak.
Yep.
So that he can sneak around at night.
Yep.
It's not like he's just giving him,
And he gives Hermione a time turner, and just all kinds of things that could put them into into difficult and dangerous situations.
Well, and the time turner she has for the classes, but he gives her the go fight this battle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the end of the first book, it says he gave him enough information so that they would, if he wanted to fight him, he could. If he wanted to fight Voldemort, he could. And that's he's 12.
Yeah, he's 12. And then he's like 15 when he like witnesses this horrific death, and like Dumbledore, who is his like mentor and a father figure to him, just stops speaking to him.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more in our grief. We're going to do another conversation about grief. I think we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But, and then also, like, he takes him, he, like, sidearm apparates him into the cave of awfulness.
Yes. And, like, makes him be the one to bear witness to his demise.
To his demise, So, Dumbledore's complicated.
Dumbledore's complicated. So I just think we have to let Snape be complicated, too, in that situation. And, like, say that he really wanted, like, I do believe that he wanted to, do right by Lily. Yeah. Which is, like, not, like, that's not super noble. Yeah. But, like, it's at least something. But I do think he wanted to be, I think he wanted to be good. Yeah. And I think he just couldn't ever quite do it.
I'll give you the point for today.
Okay.
So that's the thing, you can fight about this forever.
But actually, we would fight about this for a long time.
I don't really want to. We have. I don't really want to because I want us to talk about who uses power for good in this series.
Absolutely, because tons of them do.
And I will say, I'm going to make the first statement that I think that Harry uses power for good.
Absolutely.
And I think the reason, I think you could use it for lots of reasons. We talked about it a little bit on Tuesday when we talked about Dumbledore's army, and but I think one way to say that too is that Harry consistently uses the spell Expelliarmus over and over and over again throughout the series when he is in grave peril and everybody around him is like, quit using that spell.
Right. It's not strong enough.
Also, it gave you away because everybody knows you use that spell. Yeah.
Well, and even when he's teaching them in Dumbledore's army, the big thing he focuses on is like stupefy, which does stun you, but it doesn't hurt you. Yeah. Or kill you or do anything like that. You know, a lot of the spells being used against them absolutely would do.
Yeah, like he is a full-on in a wizard's war, and he never uses an unforgivable curse.
No, I don't think so.
I
guess, like, he doesn't, I mean, like, big spoilers. I guess we've already said, like, there's gonna be spoilers in this, but, like, with Voldemort, at the end, like, he doesn't say it, but he does.
No, I don't think so. I think that I thought it just backfired.
Does it just backfire on him?
Yeah. When they go, he says Expelliarmus, which disarms Voldemort. Right. That's when the Elder Wand comes to him. I think it just like reflects back. I don't know. A true story, just. I have
to go back and read it.
I know. It's been a little while since I've read it, so we make like this argument. We'll have people that'll just be like, "Oh, y'all missed so much."
Right.
Of course we did.
Of course we did. Yeah, I haven't read the books in 3 years since we did this the last time.
Yeah. So. Okay. I'll confess too that there are times that as a Gryffindor, it's hard for me to say that Harry, I do think uses power for good, but he breaks rules like
all the time, and he is reckless. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's reckless. And I mean, this is where I think it's important to point out that Hermione, like the Hat, had a hard time sorting her and almost put her in Ravenclaw, because like he relies on her so heavily when he is just brash and scattered to pull him back and to like use logic and knowledge, which like Harry's smart and he cares about knowledge, but like, you know, he just is, there's also some bravado there.
Sure. Okay, well, who else do you think uses power well in this series?
I mean, I think so many of the wizards use power really well. I think like it's worth talking about, like some of the people who were in positions of more power. Yeah. So like Arthur Weasley, who I adore, like I adore all of I particularly adore the Weasley parents. Yes. Like if I had children, they would be my aspirational goals.
Those are your parenting guides.
Yeah, they really would be. And Arthur like works in the ministry. So he has some power by that. I mean, I don't think he's like high level in the ministry, but he has some power. He has a good job in the wizarding world. And that job is also like he works in the Muggle artifacts department. And so like one of the big things he does is protect Muggles, like, and make sure that people respect and honor each other across that like wizard Muggle boundary that's really big. Yeah. In the series, and so there are the Dark Wizards in particular. I mean, when they take over the Ministry of Magic, it's all about putting Muggles in their place. Yeah. And like Arthur will have none of that.
Well, and he does that to a point of like ridicule, right?
Yes,
like it is something
absolutely
that I mean, mostly with Lucius, right? But that's who you see. If just because that's who you see, that I'm sure that it gives him a bad name with other wizards other than just Malfoy. But yeah, like it tarnishes his reputation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I would also always want to talk about like Professor McGonagall.
I know.
She's my favorite character.
You love McGonagall.
It's also because of Dame Maggie Smith, but it's also McGonagall. Like if we're going to talk about Snape and Dumbledore and how complicated they are about power, like for all of their complication about power, like McGonagall hardly ever...
Yeah, she doesn't
screw up when it comes to using her power and what her responsibilities are to the students.
She has like a North Star.
She does.
Values and never wavers from them.
And protects the students from themselves, from other teachers. I mean, you know, in book 4 when, you know, Barty Crouch Moody situation happens, like she protects the students from things that he does.
Well, even in the first book, like she is, well, I don't know, except where she might waver is in her love of Quidditch.
Absolutely. It's like the only thing. That's the other thing I love about her is that like her fandom is the only thing that gets in the way of her like true north of what a value is. It's like, well,
but
we could break a rule for if we could win Quidditch.
But even then, she's like bashes Lee if he tries to.
Yes.
You know, the other team is clearly cheating Lee. You can just like let it go.
Right.
No, I think, but like where other teachers, well, maybe just Hagrid, I guess, and he's not even a teacher at that point, is so willing to like slip them information. Like she has boundaries with her students, and like that is a line, and she doesn't cross it. Even like when he wants to go to town, she knows there's no way Harry can get his permission slip signed. Like, and
you know that she actually wants to do that for him,
but like that's a boundary, and that's a rule, and we're not gonna we're not gonna cross it. Yeah. So she protects her students. Yeah. And then you know one of the best.
Oh, the greatest scene in the movies for sure, I think. So I think the Battle of Hogwarts scenes in the movies are like, it's like one of my favorite parts, despite some of the horror of it. But when she calls down the statues to come and protect our school. And then she's so excited. I always wanted to use that spell.
Yes.
Yeah, like I like that she is... Like, she's clearly nervous, obviously, about what's happening. She has spent her whole life protecting Hogwarts and its students. But, like, the time has come and she is all in. Yeah. You know? And she's a powerful wizard.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. While we have disagreements about Snape, we are in total agreement about Remus Lupin.
100%. Remus Lupin is pure and wonderful.
Pure and wonderful.
Despite his werewolfery.
Werewolfery. Yes. That there is not a pure character, I don't think. I don't know.
There probably is, but like we love Remus Lupin. He is such a pure character and a good leader and a good teacher. A kind person.
Yes. Yeah. And tortured and struggles and still like overcomes.
That's the thing. Like we talked about a lot of people being tortured and then kind of being the worst. And like he just gives all of himself to like fighting to be the best.
That which is within him too. Yeah. Yeah. And I also think in the same way as McGonagall, like he actually does respect those boundaries as a teacher as well. Especially, I mean, she has 7 books to prove her, and he has 1. But like he has a relationship with James, and has a relationship with Harry, and has known Harry since he was little, and he doesn't ever, he just treats him as a student. Like, yes, he tutors him on the side and helps him to overcome this fear of the boggart and teaches him the skills that he will need to be able to overcome that. But that's just tutoring. Like, that's regular
He would do that if it was a different kid, too. Right. It was in that situation.
Exactly. And he comes down on Harry when he finds Harry with the map. Like, he saves him from Snape. But Snape would try to expel him for having a map, right? But, like, he just reams Harry for having the map. And tells him how dangerous it is and doesn't let him have it. He doesn't... Now when he's not his teacher anymore.
Some of that's protective instinct, too, though. You know, like...
Yeah, because he doesn't know at that point that Sirius is okay.
Right.
So he actually is protecting him.
Right.
But... he doesn't give it back until after that boundary. It's okay to cross that boundary because
safe.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But let's talk just a second about his werewolfery.
His werewolfery. Yeah. I think I invented that word. I hope I did. I mean, so I think that's part of what makes Lupin such a good defense against the dark. It's why it makes him, frankly, the only really good defense against the dark arts teacher they have.
Yeah.
The entire time that they're there, and it's because he knows what's inside him. And so, like, you and I both believe very strongly that, like, nobody is all good or all bad.
Absolutely.
And so, like, but people have a really hard time. I think we're seeing that play out hugely now as people try to, like, combat racism and are sometimes afraid to look at it within ourselves.
Right. It's easy to point out and say that's a racist thing and use the biggest, grandest, most obvious example. And if I could say it's out there, I don't have to say
Exactly. I don't have to deal with it in here.
Yeah.
And so I just think he knows what is in him, and he knows the evil that he is capable of inside of him.
Yes.
And so he is both diligent and compassionate in how he combats that.
Yeah, yeah. And does many things to combat that. Like, he asks for help.
Absolutely. People know that about him.
Yeah, he's honest about it. When he's young, his friends help him. Dumbledore helps him. Snape helps him.
Yes.
In providing a potion.
Yeah.
At the times when that has just, like, overtaken, he removes himself from other people that would cause him harm. And then he also, like, gives himself time to recover. Like, right? Like, Snape teaches his class during the day. He is not a werewolf during the day, right? But he gives himself time to recover and that space to, like, deal with his own junk.
Right.
And not bring it into the...
Absolutely.
To the classroom. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, Lupin.
Oh, Lupin. Yeah. He's one of my favorite characters too. Him and McGonagall, man.
Me too.
Yeah. I gotta read book 3 again and, like, see. I don't remember them really interacting, but I like to imagine they did quite a bit.
You think they were buds in the teacher's lounge?
I do. I do. And in the order. Like, they're both in the order.
They are.
So she doesn't go to meetings. So
she's
busy.
McGonagall doesn't have time for meetings.
No. She's too busy being awesome at Hogwarts.
Okay, well, what about... So all these people have power on their own, but you just mentioned the order.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they use their power the best when they bring it together. That's true of the students too, with Dumbledore's army. Like, so the people who maybe don't have as much, certainly institutional power, like even the Dark Wizards, right? Like the people that are involved with Voldemort, like Malfoy, like he's a much higher position of authority in the Ministry. Umbridge is a very high position of authority in the Ministry. Like the folks in the Order of the Phoenix who are in the Ministry, like they're Orange and they're, Arthur, but like they're not in the highest positions.
No.
And so they really have a lot working against them. But like when they get together, like they use their power so effectively.
Yes.
Because they join together. And they like use both the resources they have from within of people who work within the Ministry and people who have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And the students, they just, they use whatever resources they have.
It would be remiss of me not to talk about my very favorite scene in all of the Harry Potter movies while we're talking.
I did. You should.
So, my favorite is, after such a sad thing, right? When they're all at the base of the astronomy tower with the dark arts, or the dark mark in the sky, that it's one person. Is it Pomfrey or is it McGonagall that starts it in the movie? I don't know.
I think it's Pomfrey, maybe.
I think it's Pomfrey.
In the movie, at least.
Holds their wand up, Lumos, and light, and then it's another, and another, and another, and another, to the point that the brightness, that the darkness is
banished.
Dissipated,
Yeah.
And,
it's such a great scene.
The light cannot be overcome.
Right. With all of their wands together. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a good scene.
Yes. The power together is better than
It's almost
power
worth watching that sad movie.
And not fast forward.
I fast forward like everything from when he apparates Harry to that cave until the first one goes up. Like I'm just like, no, I don't want to see.
I know what happens.
I don't want to see anyone. I know what happens.
Yeah. So. Well, I think that we have big opinions.
We do.
And, but I would be curious to know. Our list is certainly not exhaustive.
Right.
I'd be curious to know who other people believe use power well within the wizarding world, and so let us know.
Yeah.
Send us I guess you could comment on this
video,
on
YouTube or Facebook.
Yeah, or if you send us an email and let us know who you think uses power well and why in the wizarding world, we'll give you house points.
House points. Absolutely.
So,
thanks for joining us for our conversation.
All right, bye friends.
Bye.